Welcome to the Effortless English Show with the world's #1 English teacher, AJ Hogue, where AJ's more than 40 million students worldwide finally learn English once and for all, without the boring textbooks, classrooms, and grammar drills. Here's AJ with a quick piece to help you learn to speak fluent English effortlessly.
I'm AJ Hogue, the author of Effortless English. Learn to speak English like a native. Father of the Effortless English system. I train you, I teach you. You speak English fluently, you speak powerfully, you speak confidently, you speak effortlessly when you join and commit to my VIP program at effortlessenglishclub.com. effortlessenglishclub.com. Go to that website. Join, commit to my VIP program. Today's book club, starting a new book. New book today, Your Money or Your Life. Your Money or Your Life. The whole title, let's read it. Let's see. Your Money or Your Life. That's the title. The subtitle, 9 Steps to Transforming Your Relationship with Money and Achieving Financial Independence. So it's one of those titles that tells you exactly what you will learn. Transform your relationship with money. Transform means make a big change. And achieve financial independence. Well, it sounds good. And we know there'll be 9 steps. So I'm guessing 9 chapters. Let's take a look. I can tell you right now how many chapters there are. Look at that, 9 chapters. All right, so there we go. That's our book, our new book. The writers this is the book by Vicki Robin and Joe Dominguez, 2 writers for this book. I believe Joe Dominguez passed away. I believe he has died, but Vicki Robin is still alive. So I think there might be also a few other books with the same title, so be careful. Get the one with the correct authors, the correct writers. Your Money or Your Life. Today we're going to go over the introduction and the prologue, which is kind of also means it's kind of an introduction. So not chapter 1. We'll start chapter 1 next week, where we start the 9 steps. So there'll be 9 chapters, 9 steps, 9 chapters. Easy. But today is before the first step. So again, a general introduction to what is the book about? What are the general ideas of the book? Why should we read this book? What are the benefits? In general, what are we going to learn? All right, I am live on YouTube today. We are live on YouTube today. All right, let's do it. Let's just jump in. And of course, I'll get to the live comments and questions after. Vladislav, good to see you. Here we go. Introduction. The book begins with a very nice question. Right at the introduction beginning, it says, why read this book? What's a good question? Why should we read this book? Why should we study it? And then it says, ask yourself these questions. So why read the book? And then it has a lot of questions. Question 1 is, do you have enough money? Well, do you? Do you have enough money? Number 2, are you spending enough time with family and friends? That's an important question. Are you spending, most days, are you spending enough time with friends and family? Number 3, do you come home from your job full of life? That's a great question. It's a very good question. So if you're working a job, do you feel like alive after your job? When you go home, you come home after your job, are you feeling great? You're full of life, or are you exhausted? You feel terrible? Do you have time to participate in things you believe are worthwhile? Worthwhile means important to you, worth doing. So do you have time to do all the things you want to do? Basically, all the things you think are important or enjoyable. Do you have enough time to do those things? Okay, next one. If you were laid off from your job, would you see it as an opportunity? Nice question. If you're laid off, that basically means fired. Okay. Then what's the difference? A little vocab lesson. What's the difference between laid off and fired? Laid off and fired from a job. I mean, the result is exactly the same. You lose your job. But it's the reason. It's the reason. Okay? If you're fired from a job, usually, if you're fired, it's because you did something wrong. Right? So you're fired because maybe your performance is bad, maybe you're late all the time, maybe you had a big failure, but you did something bad or you did something wrong, and then you're fired. Right? You lose your job. Laid off is usually, it means they're cutting jobs to save money. The company is just cutting jobs. So maybe you didn't individually, you personally, you didn't do anything wrong. You didn't have a failure. You might even be very good at your job. But the company is cutting jobs for some reason, and you lose your job because of that. So it's not your fault, really. Maybe you're just the newest person, or maybe you're older, and they're trying to get rid of higher paying jobs. But they're doing it just to save money. There's nothing you did personally. So that's the difference. That's laid off. So the question is, if you were laid off from your job, if you lost your job, would you see it as an opportunity? In other words, would you cry and be upset or be afraid? Or would you say, hey, this is fine, this is okay, this is an opportunity? Interesting question. Okay, next question. Are you satisfied with the contribution you have made to the world? Interesting question. Next question. Are you at peace? At peace with your money? This means when you think about money in your life, do you feel peaceful? Or do you feel stressed? Next question. Does your job reflect your values? This means, does it fit your values, right? Does your job fit your values, meaning what you think is right and wrong? Next question. Do you have enough savings to see you through 6 months of normal living expenses? Okay, what that means is, do you have enough money saved? Do you have enough savings to survive 6 months without any money, without a job, without income? Can you live for 6 months just from your savings? Do you have enough to survive for at least 6 months? All right. And then finally, is your life whole? Is your life complete? Do all the pieces, your job, your spending, your relationships, your values, do they all fit together? And then the final thing they say is, if you answered no to even one of these questions, this book is for you. So in other words, if you said no to any of these, then you need this book. You don't have enough money, you're not spending enough time with friends, right, etc. So in other words, this book will help you solve all of these problems or questions. This book will help you say yes to all of these questions. So, very good. Let's go to the next page, the actual introduction. So this book was written way back in the 80s, 1980, back when I was in middle school. The program in this book has helped hundreds of thousands of people around the world get a grip on their personal financial lives. Get a grip on means control. So they said that the book was first written way back in 1980. So this is an old book. And it has helped hundreds of thousands of people control their personal financial lives, their money, in other words. So, and I agree, it helped me. It certainly helped me. Okay, and then they have a few topics that we're going to talk about in the book. So it's basically saying, in this book, we will talk about several topics. And then then they list these different topics and some of the problems too. So it says, let's go through some of the challenges we are facing. So basically saying that in the world, most people have some serious challenges, some serious financial problems with money. What are the problems with money that most people have? And then we're going to go through each one. So the first one is savings. It said the personal savings rate in the United States, so the writers are American, fell below zero. And that's in 2005. Since then, it has hovered between 0 and 1%. Okay, so this means that the average savings rate, how much do Americans save? What percent of their income? Right? It basically nothing. Basically none. Most Americans save zero. Nothing. Statistically, they save nothing. 0%. I mean, some are actually negative, right? Some are negative, meaning they have no savings and they owe money. They owe a lot of money. So they have negative savings. And, but it's saying most people, it's basically zero. And, of course, different countries, it's different. I know Japan is a bit higher. But overall, around the world, savings are very, very low. The percentage of savings for most countries, for most people, average, is a very, very small amount. People are not saving much money. Not like in the past, it was a higher amount. And they're saying there's a lot of propaganda. Again, like the red pill, blue pill, right? There's a lot of propaganda in the news, in the media, even in books, where they tell you that debt is good. It's okay to owe money, and that go ahead, borrow money and buy a house, borrow money, buy a car, borrow, use your credit cards. And they're saying, this is of course the opposite of true. And then they say, to have savings is to be free. Savings means freedom from debt. Debt means you owe money. You have to pay money to someone else, right, with interest. So they're saying savings gives you freedom. This is the first benefit of saving money, of having a large amount of money saved. Freedom. Freedom to leave your job if your boss is intolerable, meaning if you have a bad boss. If you have no savings, well, you can't leave your job. You're afraid because you have no income. If you have a lot of money saved, just quit your job. If you hate your boss, quit your job. Doesn't matter. You're fine. You're not afraid. It says if you have savings, you can start a business, even if the bank won't give you money, because you have your own money. So you can use your savings to start a business. If you have savings, you can buy land, even if a bank won't give you money. All true. Okay, then it says, it talks about in this book, people who follow this program. Okay, people who follow this program, Your Money or Your Life, this book, it says usually in 6 months, so they read the book and by 6 months later, they are saving, they cut expenses 25%. So they start saving about 25% of their income. And then it says, after a while, many people save 50% or more of every paycheck. So this is what's possible, they're saying. This is what they're going to teach us how to do, teach you how to do, how to save most of your money, right? 50% or more of your money that you're making from your paycheck, you can be saving. Instead of spending it, save it. 50% or more. This is a goal of the book. Of course, the opposite, another problem is debt. People owe money, right? Huge amount of money. Debt kills. Debt is a killer. Usury. There's a reason in the Bible and the Quran and in Sanatana Dharma, in all these religions, how they are against usury. because it creates slavery. So debt is slavery. Debt makes you a slave. Borrowing money, having to pay the interest, credit cards, house loans, car loans, all that stuff makes you a slave. Okay, then they talk about the challenge of income and how we have to ask questions. Do we really need to make a huge amount of income? And it says, in people who read this book, who follow this book, they learn to stop comparing themselves to other people. So they're saying that a lot of people, they try to make more money, just because they're trying to do what other people are doing. They're too worried about what other people think. And one goal of the book, one thing the book will help you with, help you stop comparing yourself to other people. Stop worrying about how much do other people make. Just focus on how much do you really need, and don't worry about what other people are doing. Okay, another challenge the book will talk about, jobs. Your job is an important part of your life. I'm reading from the book now. Your job is an important part of your life, but not the center of your life. So this is another goal of the book, to help you that your job will be important, but not the center, not the biggest part of your life, not the center of your life. That your life should have a lot of time, a lot of room, a lot of space, a lot of time for family, friends, fun, and sleep. So that's nice. Another goal of the book. Okay, cost of living. This is something else the book's going to talk about. Cost of living. How, again, we have kind of blue pill ideas about cost of living. And this book is going to red pill us. And what it's saying is the book is going to show us and teach us that we don't need to focus only on money. That there are other ways to have wealth. There are other ways to get what we need in life. For example, sharing with family, sharing with our neighbors. Do-it-yourself skills. In other words, learning how to make things yourself. Instead of buying everything, you can learn how to make things yourself. Instead of buying new things all the time, you learn how to repair, how to fix things. So this makes your spending much, much lower. And you learn how to be creative, how to solve problems without spending money. This is another goal of the book. It says the book wants to help you unhook from consumer culture. It means leave the consumer culture, the matrix, right? Leave it. Leave this consumer culture, this idea that you have to buy to have a meaningful life. All right, that's basically the introduction. It just talks about these kind of issues or problems that the book's going to talk about and help us solve. And then in the prologue, which is kind of another kind of introduction, it talks a little more. It talks about being a creative. It talks about how in this book, we're going to learn how to think creatively, to not just follow what everybody else is doing, to not just think the same as everybody else, but to be more creative. That one way to become financially free, an important thing that you need is creative thinking, to think differently than everyone else, not just focus on making and spending money, that there are other ways to solve problems. But basically it says here, one tangible outcome of financial intelligence. So this is one of the goals of the book. Get out of debt. So no money, zero debt. And have at least 6 months of living expenses saved. Okay, so this is our kind of the first level, I would say, of the book. The first level of financial independence. There are higher levels, of course, but the very first step, the first goal you will have is zero debt. You owe no money, no credit cards, no house loan, no car loan, nothing, zero debt. And then also you have enough money saved to survive, your whole family, survive for 6 months. 6 months with no income, 6 months with no job. So 6 months of money in the bank or saved, however. So you can buy all the food you need, pay your rent, whatever you need to do. You have enough money for 6 months of living. That's kind of level 1. Okay, and then finally, and then level 2, let's call that level 1. We'll call it financial intelligence. Okay, this is kind of the levels her name or their names, Joe and Vicky's. So level 1 they call financial intelligence. Level 1, so that is 0 debt, you owe no money, and you have 6 months of savings. Level 2 they call financial integrity. Basically, you improve upon this. But then the final level is financial independence. Level 3, financial independence is totally natural. At a certain point, you will no longer need to earn a living. In other words, you will not need to work for money. That's what financial independence means. Okay, so that's the final goal of the book. Financial independence means you don't need a job anymore. You can quit your job and live the rest of your life without a job. You can work if you want to, but you don't have to. You don't have to work for money. You have enough money saved and invested to live your whole life financially free. You don't need a job anymore. So we'll call that, the high level. Okay, low level, no debt, 6 months of savings. And the high level, the final level, totally financially independent, don't need a job anymore. That's what this book is going to teach us. Those two things, those are the two steps, the two big steps. And we will start next week. Next week, chapter 1 here, the money trap, the old map for money. So they're going to talk about kind of the old blue pill ideas about money in chapter 1, and we'll talk about that next week. All right. Let's go to questions and comments live. Just let me think if I have anything to say about this first, and then we'll go to comments. I think it's all pretty clear. I will say I followed this system exactly. So I can personally say that the ideas in this book do work because I did them myself. This book had a big influence on me. The second thing I will say, if I compare this book, let's say I compare this book to Robert Kiyosaki's books. Robert Kiyosaki is much more focused on making money, making a lot of money, getting rich. I mean, that's the name of his book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. He says it very clearly. This book is not really about getting rich. Your money or your life is not about getting rich. There's a difference. Financial independence does not mean rich. Rich means lots and lots of money. But it's possible to be financially free, right? You don't need a job. But you don't have to have a lot of money for that. You don't have to be super rich for that. And so this book is more about financial freedom and independence. It's not about being super rich. So they're not going to tell you how to become super rich and make huge amounts of money through, amazing investments and building a super big company. That's not what this book's about. But I will say this. I think for most people, for most average people, just normal people, the system in this book is easier. This is an easier system for financial freedom. It's harder to become rich. It's more difficult to build a successful business and make a lot of money. That's not easy. It's not easy. But what you will learn in this book, anyone can do it. Anyone. It doesn't matter if you have a job that pays very little or you have a job that pays a lot. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Anybody can follow the system in this book and become financially free. That's why I like this book. And, I realized this myself when I was younger and really focused on financial freedom and independence. I realized myself that, first I tried to focus on making a lot of money and it stressed me out and I failed. And I realized that, this will take forever. I don't know if this will ever work. So then I decided to follow the system in this book, which was more about living more simply, cutting expenses, and we'll see what the details. And I realized, this is much easier. I can do this. Anyone can do this. It doesn't matter. Even if I'm just a teacher, even just a social worker not making much money, I can still be financially free using your money or your life, this system. So I encourage you all to be very serious about learning from this book because the benefits those questions at the beginning, those benefits are very real. No more stress about money, or at least not much stress about money. You're much more relaxed about it. Having your time to do what you want, to spend with people that you love most instead of, being working all the time, to do the activities you love. It doesn't matter if it's traveling or exercise or hobbies, just to have a nice life, Very, very important. That's the benefits. All right, let's go to our questions and comments. Okay, so Bakir says, in your opinion, AJ, what is the amount of money you need to live a decent life? Well, actually, we are going to talk about this exact question in this book. This book talks about this. You are going to do some exercises in this book, and you're going to answer this question for yourself. Exactly, an exact number. So I can't tell you because it's different for everyone. It's really different for everyone. It depends on how you want to live. But, for me, it's a pretty low number. But for others, it might be a little higher. So I think there's not one right answer for this. It just depends on how you want to live. So we're actually going to go through this. In this book, there are some exercises, some activities you need to do, where you are going to calculate, you're going to figure out the exact amount of money you need. Not for luxury, but to be free. So we'll just wait a little bit on that question, and you can answer that question yourself. You just saved me from getting a new loan, said Plataforma. Good, don't do it. Don't do it. Yeah, now Ahmed says it's great to combine your money or your life plus Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I agree. They're a good combination, these two books. Follow both systems together. It's kind of doubly powerful, especially if you think like an investor or an entrepreneur. So, yeah, I agree. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I still like that book a lot. It's still great. It's just a little more difficult, I think. But it's wonderful. But I think they fit together very well. These two books are kind of like yin and yang, and they really are a good combination to follow both. So I agree completely. Yeah, this is a good mindset to have from Alexei says, I can't understand people who take out loans get hooked on this type of addiction deliberately. If you can't afford it to buy it at once, it means you're not ready for this thing. Yeah, learning to just delay and wait if you can't afford something. If you have the money, okay, fine. But if you don't, just wait. You don't have to have it. Well, okay, Mikkel with another good question. What does this book recommend if you already have debt? We're also going to learn about this, okay? Because, of course, some people already have debt. And so, the short answer for this question is the first thing you have to do is get rid of your debt, right? So you're going to have to cut your expenses and use your extra money to pay the debt, to pay it quickly. Get rid of it as fast as you can. Pay it off. We say pay it off, that phrase, pay it off. You pay off a loan, pay off all your debt. Pay off means that you eliminate it. You pay everything you owe, all the interest, all of it, so it's gone completely. You become debt free. So if you have debt already, then that's going to be your first step. Well, your first step will be to cut your expenses and start having extra money. You need extra money every month. And then your second step, you will use the extra money first to pay the debts. Get rid of all your debts. After you pay all the debts, then you still have the extra money, then you'll start saving. So you have kind of an extra step. If you have debt already, you'll have that extra step in the beginning that first you have to get rid of the debt before you can start saving. Yeah, Nasser, good point, Nasser. The ideas in this book are the opposite of Brave New World, the materialistic idea. Yeah, that's right. It's another reason I like this book. This book, and very practically, we talked about what can we do about Brave New World? How do we fight it? Well, this book is very practical about it. It's not a political book really at all. It's just very practical about money and finances. But the mindset of this book is exactly the opposite of Brave New World. It's the opposite of spending, and pleasure. It's discipline, especially financial discipline, simplicity. So I like that about it, and you're right about it. You're right about that. Yeah, like Mikhail says, to live the simple life is it's fearful for some people due to brainwashing, propaganda. They're afraid not to fit into society, to stand out. Right, it's kind of what that's that in the introduction I just read. That kind of said that one of the goals of the book is to help you overcome the need to fit in with others, to stop worrying about what other people are doing with money, stop caring what other people do about, spending their money, what kind of clothes they wear, what kind of houses they have or cars they have. Who cares? Doesn't matter. So what? Your clothes are more old than their clothes. Who cares? Patrick, good luck with your business. I'm going to love this book for real. I'm enthusiastic about starting my own business. I have a big, discouraging, and disappointing challenge. I've been cheated 2 times, so scared. Well, Patrick, maybe just start your business by yourself. No partners. Partners in business are difficult. You have to be very careful. And it's hard. It's very, very hard to find a partner that you can totally trust, that will work hard. So if you can, Patrick, try to start a business just yourself. Then you just rely on yourself. But good luck to you, Patrick. I hope you're successful. Yeah, like Vladislav is a nice, we say succinct. Succinct means short and accurate. Live simply, don't borrow money. Good summary. Live simply, don't borrow money. You just summed up the first chapter of the book. Yeah, like Altaj with another good question. It's just a good question to ask. Is money necessary to have a good life? Is it necessary? I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe not. Or not much. Not much money. Yeah, no, see, like Ahmad says, he's doing great. I naturally save money of my paycheck 60%. He's saving 60% of his paycheck. That's great. Because I have a plan to travel next year. It became a habit. That's what's wonderful. And see, Ahmed, has a habit now. He saved 60% of his paycheck. So right now he's planning to use that for travel. But guess what? After his travel, he can still have that habit and he can save it still after he comes back, still save 60%. And then use the money for savings, use it for business, use to invest, use to become financial free. So that habit is just a very powerful habit to have. It's really good. Yeah, like Ilana Khan says, to deal with money, we need self-discipline. Indeed, we do. Yes. That's probably the main skill this book will require, is that we need some self-discipline. We have to have a strong mindset to control our desires and social pressure. Can you see why this is a powerful weapon against Brave New World? Control your desire, right? Brave New World teaches you just follow every desire. Do anything you desire, just do it. Buy anything, do anything. Well, this is the opposite. Strong mindset, self-discipline, control your desire. Control the fear of social pressure. See, it makes you strong and it helps you resist. It's not only financial benefits, I think. There are emotional benefits. It's an interesting book. Hope the ending is happy compared to Brave New World, says Namaz. It is. This is a happy book. It's not, this is a self-help book. It's very positive. Kazewa says, I don't have debt. Nice. Debt-free is a good feeling, guys. I remember, I had debt when I was young. It sucked. It's terrible. And as a first step, I remember when all my debts, when I was debt-free, it was a very peaceful, nice feeling to have zero debts. Very nice. And then, that step one level feels very good if you've never had it before. If you've, always had debt, or you never had much savings, or always kind of stressed about money, that even the first level, when you are debt-free, of zero debt, and you have 6 months or more saved, it's a great feeling. You feel like very calm and confident. And then, of course, the second level is really good. The second level is super good. Hey Jay, do you not have any credit cards? I'm thinking cancel them. I personally have credit cards, but I pay them every month. I pay 100% every month. So I use them because it's useful to buy things sometimes electronically, but like traveling or something. But I don't, no debt. I never pay interest. So if whatever I use in that month, we pay the full amount. So there's no debt. So that if you have discipline like that, you can use a credit card. If you know that you don't have discipline, that you're going to start borrowing money and then each month it's going to get worse and worse and worse, then just get rid of your credit cards. Just get... Sheminagity says, recommend Think and Grow Rich. It's on my list. Vladislav says, I don't have a family yet, so I don't need lots of money. When I have family with children, it requires a bit more money. How can I figure out how much money I will need when I have a family? Well, the good news is babies don't eat much. So I don't know. I don't think our spending has not really increased much, our normal spending. We're still living in the same apartment. So our rent is the same. That's usually the biggest one, is rent. So if you're willing to live in a small place, then when you have children, you just continue to live in a small place. So that does not increase. Doesn't have to. Food, eventually they'll start eating more when they get bigger, but when they're little, they don't eat so much, especially when they're little babies. Medical expenses can be bigger, but depends on the country. What the situation with that is. So I wouldn't worry about it so much. Don't worry about it so much. You'll be okay. It's possible. We're going to see again in this book that if you're creative, if you have the discipline and the creativity, that you figure out ways to solve these problems. You figure out ways to cut some expenses and do what you need to do, so you don't have to be so afraid. Like, if I have children, my expenses will be so high. Not really. Like I said, right now, we just have babies, but we have 2 new babies, and our expenses are not much higher. Not much. Minata, you must have missed my shows this week, but I'll answer your question again. What's your take on money and happiness? Can money really make one happy? No. I would like to know your honest opinion. Money cannot make you happy. What does money do? Money removes financial stress. That's what it does. Okay, so when I was younger and I was stressed about money, and then compared to now, I don't have that stress now. So that's better. It's an improvement for sure. It's much better, much better. But did it make me happy? Can it make you happy? No. right? It's still, I still have life every day and I have normal stuff, and it's other things that make me happy. But it's not the money. What's nice about the money is that it just removes that one part of stress that I used to have in my life and gives me more options and things. So it's nice, it's fine, but don't worship it. Don't think it's going to make your life perfect. Oh, let's see. How to arise if they have no money, zero money at all. What's your recommendation? Well, it really depends on their situation. Like, why do they have no money? Like, are they a monk living in a temple? Then they probably don't need it. Are they a sadhu, a guru, somebody who's decided to live that way? They don't need it. Are they a student who's really poor? Well, then they just got to live, many students have to learn to live very, very tight for a few years during those years. And, basically follow what's in this book, right? So if you need money, sometimes you need money. So you got to go get a job and try to make some money. But the point of the book is that you don't have to be a slave to money. So yeah, I had to work jobs I didn't like, and you have to do some work to make money if you want to live kind of in the economy, the normal economy. But we don't have to be slaves. So if you have zero money and you're starving to death, you probably should get a job. That's what I would recommend. If someone has zero money and they're going to starve to death because they have no savings and they have nowhere to live and nothing, well, get a job. Do anything. Any job, even if it sucks, right? Because in that situation, you have to get some money. So you do what you must do. You got to take care of things short term, and then long term, of course, you try to improve your situation. Oh, okay. Lena says she has a little bit different version. That's okay. I bought this book. I read the introduction. It's a little different than your version, maybe because it's updated in 2018. Yeah, I think, I don't know if I have the updated or you have it. Let's see. What version do I have? Oh, it looks like I've got like a 2008 version. Yeah, so my version's a little old. I've got a little bit old version. I don't have the newest version, but the basic idea should be fine. I think that the main parts of the book will be the same, so I wouldn't worry about it. It's okay. So any version you have, even if you have the old 1980 version, it's fine. The basic ideas are going to be the same in the book. Oh, this is a nice quote that Fernanda found from the book. Our happiest moments come from love and contribution. We want more time for what makes life truly meaningful. Yeah. One thing I love about this book is how it focuses on time. This is one of the key points I learned when I was young and I read this book, was that time is more important than money. It's time that, so many people were focused on money, and we kind of forget about time, but it's actually time is the key thing. And I realized that myself, even at that young age, that, yeah, that's what I want. I want time, meaning each day of my life, I want that time to do what I want to do, right? I was, instead of spending 8 hours a day or 9 or 10 hours a day at work, going to work, coming home from work, being tired about work, like it was just a huge number of hours every day. And I realized, well, this is eating up. These jobs are eating all my time. That's why I'm so unhappy. So I'm losing the most important thing in my life, time, just to make this money. And I realized that's crazy. I don't want to do that. I want my time back. I want time to exercise. I want time to hang out with my friends. I want time to spend with my family. I want time to sit quietly and read a book. I want time to go to a coffee shop and relax. all the things I like doing. I want that life again. And I'm willing to have less money if I can have that time. So it's a really good insight of the book. Is being married good for financial independence? It just depends who you marry, I guess. If you marry someone who's also financially disciplined, I think that's something you should be clear about before you get married. That the person you're going to marry should have that financial discipline. That they're not someone who wants to spend lots of money and wants to buy lots of things. So for me, it's great. In fact, my wife is more disciplined than I am. Far more disciplined than I am. Right? Okay, let's see. Yeah, now Ong is correct about this. I agree with this exactly. Ong says, for most people, housing is a big expense. I think if we lived in a small apartment, we could solve half our financial problems. I agree with you completely about this. We're going to talk about this in the next few chapters of the book, but this is the same realization I had. You know, when I started following this book, for example, I looked at all my spending. I looked at my bank account and I looked at receipts and I looked at everything and I examined every little bit of money I was spending. What was I buying? What was I spending money on? And I wrote it down and examined it. And I realized exactly this, what Ong said, that accommodation, housing, was my number one biggest expense. By far, that was the biggest one. And it was fixed, meaning I couldn't change it easily, right? And so I realized, well, this is the big one. If I can cut my housing expense a lot, that's going to give me automatically every month a lot more money and a lot more freedom. Because the other things are easier, like for eating. Okay, I can go to a restaurant less. That's kind of easy to do. But the housing one was a big one, and I realized this is the largest expense I have. And I thought, well, I'm going to cut the big one first. And this is why eventually, you guys know, I always say, but this is why I lived in a car eventually. This is why I lived in a van eventually, because I decided to cut my housing to zero, basically. I decided to cut my rent to zero. I became extreme about this, okay? But now in the beginning, I didn't do that. But in the beginning, I just moved from a bigger apartment to a small one. That was my first step, was to cut my housing costs. So instead of living in a big, nice, newer apartment, I moved to a tiny, cheap apartment. And it cut my rent a lot and immediately gave me some savings. It immediately gave me financial, what's the word I'm looking for? Surplus. Surplus means extra. So that was the big one. And then after I did that for a while, I realized, well, I decided, I don't want to work much. I really want to cut my working hours a lot. I wanted to just work only a little bit part-time, right? But then I realized, well, if I only work a little, that means my income will be small. How can I do it? And after thinking a lot, I finally realized, well, if my rent was zero, I could do it. If my rent was zero, I could work just a few hours every week and still be fine. And that's why, I already had a car. And there was no debt. It was an old car, so already paid for. So I just thought, well, that's what I'll do. If I live in my car, I cut rent completely. I don't have to work much. And that's what I did. Lived in a car, lived in a van. I did about 3 months where I had no job at all, just had a free summer like a student again. It was wonderful. And then I went and got a job. I worked actually in Japan for a while, saved some money, came back and lived in a van for a whole year and only worked part-time just a little bit, again, because I had no rent. So that is indeed a big one. If you're looking like, we're going to talk about this, this in this book, so we don't need to do a lot of detail now, but basically, though, if you're trying to think, like, where can I cut my cost? Where can I save some money? Housing is a really good one to start with. Housing is, for most people, the really big one. If you own a house, meaning if you have a big loan debt, it's usually the biggest debt is your house. If you're renting, it's usually the largest payment you have every month is your rent. For most people. And so therefore, that's the easiest one to cut. It's the easiest one to make a big savings. Move from a big place to a small place. If you're in a small place, move to an even smaller place. Okay? So that's a great one to start with. Okay. I think that's it. All right, good. So tomorrow we'll be back with The Matrix. I think we'll probably finish The Matrix tomorrow. And of course, we're going to be on Twitch for our movie club. Twitch, remember, it's always live on Twitch. We'll be doing, I think it's the end of The Matrix, but maybe there's one more. We'll see. But anyway, we'll continue with The Matrix tomorrow. And remember, it's one of my favorite parts of The Matrix movie. There's no talking, though, so we're not going to watch it probably tomorrow. But in the action scene, which is the next part of The Matrix, when he and Trinity both go to save Morpheus. It's just a cool... It's not just one scene, it's a whole sequence of fights, like a gunfight and then like karate kung fu fights. And it's just the whole rest of the movie is all these great action scenes. But we're not going to do those, but I'll try to find some places where they talk a little bit. Back for Movie Club. And then next Saturday, we'll go to chapter 1 for this book, Your Money or Your Life. Lots of love to you. I will see you next time. As always, commit to my VIP program at effortlessenglishclub.com. Visit that website, commit at effortlessenglishclub.com.